Welcome to the Long Story Longer podcast.
I'm Dominic Marano. I prescribe meds.
And I'm KatieBrzozowski, and I provide psychotherapy.
Long Story Longer is a podcast about mental health and navigating medication, therapy, and whatever else we want to talk about.
We will discuss topics from each of our perspectives. We will try to keep it to 15 minutes.
But it will probably be longer. Hello and welcome to the Long Story Longer podcast. My name is Dominic Marano. I am a family and psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. I own my own psychiatric practice and I have a doctorate in the nursing practice. I've been in healthcare for over 20 years and more recently into mental health.
Hey, I'm KatieBrzozowski and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I have a doctorate in clinical social work and I own a private practice and I've been in the mental health profession for over 25 years. So, Dom, today we are going to do Q&A day. I've been looking forward to this. I think you have as well. So Let's just jump right into it.
Sounds good to me.
All right. So the first question that we've been asked is, what got us into the mental health field? So, Dom, why don't you share with us?
Well, I started off in nursing school and went and got my master's, but was initially trained in family medicine. I ended up working in critical care, and I don't know if you know this, but we had a pandemic.
No. When was that?
I know, we all have a lot of PTSD from it, but during that time, I realized that working during a pandemic was putting my family in danger. I had some leaning towards mental health, just trying to I always had been interested in it, and I actually, when they legalized medical marijuana, I was like, this is going to be great. I could go to psych MP school and diagnose people with anxiety and then they could get marijuana.
Oh.
But as the pandemic happened, I decided, let me go and see if I can pursue this as maybe an option for me to work in a safer environment for my family and then kind of pursue mental health as I had wanted to. When I got into it, I realized that my applications could probably be used a little bit more so than medical marijuana and kind of fell in love with different treatment and incorporating the skills that I had learned from being a medical provider as a nurse practitioner to now a mental health one. So they kind of overlap. I still do work as a nurse practitioner delivering medical care that I now incorporate mental health into as well. But, you know, my peers come to me and say, oh, this person's depressed. Now, obviously, we're not going to fix the depression in that short period of time that they're in the hospital, hopefully short, but it's really nice. I really, it has given me the freedom to work how I want to work and treat people and still make a difference. So I absolutely love it.
And that's such a great combination of skill sets and you having the way that you have about you with people and you work with people. I think that that's helpful in mental health and in working in the hospital as well.
How about yourself? What got you into mental health?
Well, probably won't surprise you to know that I changed my major many times in undergrad. And I was an English major, sociology major, I was a radio TV major, probably some other stuff. But I did always want to be a writer. I also was always interested in mental health and helping people when they had difficult situations. And so I ended up landing on social work. And my dad told me not to do that. So my dad said, if you want to help people, be a doorman. If you're going to college, do something where you can make some money. So I did not listen to him and got my bachelor's in social work, and then I got my master's in social work and ended up in oncology, working in the cancer center and in medical social work, and then decided to go back and get my doctorate in clinical social work at University of Pennsylvania, which was great. And I learned so much more there. And so that coincided with the same time that I opened the practice in 2012. And this is the thing that I love the most, doing this. So I don't even feel bad that I didn't do radio and television, but I'm doing radio now, kind of, right? In our podcast. Okay.
Yeah, I guess a question to piggyback off of that would be, what would you do if you weren't doing mental health?
Well, I wouldn't do any of those things that I said. I wouldn't be a journalism or writer or sociology or anything like that. Do you know what I would do? Do you know the answer to this question?
No.
Okay. I would 100% have, like, maybe construction, doing, like, home remodels, but also, like, Airbnb, or have, like, a whole compound where there's a bunch of Airbnbs on there, and then I could, like, have events, and then I could decorate everything. So yeah, I don't know what that kind of job is called. But that is
entrepreneur of sorts.
Yes, of sorts, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's a versatility within that, but yeah, you'd be a hustler.
I would. And I love painting, like painting rooms. It quiets my brain. So if you need to make your brain be quiet, go paint a room. You will love it and you'll be so happy.
It's the fumes.
Yeah. Probably not. Probably didn't think about that. What about you? What would you be doing?
Do you know? I don't think you would know this.
I don't know. No.
I would be a baker. I love baking
Oh,
so
that?
much.
Did not know that.
I will bring you treats next time I come.
Yeah, you haven't done anything.
We both try to keep each other physically and encourage each other's exercise activities. But
Do you make sourdough bread?
I don't make sourdough bread, but I think that's a big thing now. I have a friend who's doing that. Like I don't know that I care for sourdough bread so much, but I make brownies, cupcakes.
Ooh.
I mean, I would go to school for it and learn how to be like a champ at it. But I'm like top tier box person here. My spouse, people have asked, can you please have Dom make brownies? And I love it. I just enjoy it, and I enjoy seeing people love my baked goods. I really do.
That is awesome.
And I think it's, if money wasn't an issue or those things, it would bring me so much joy. I really love the whole process. I think, like you said, it quiets my brain.
And you're still doing something good for someone. In this field, I mean, we're helping people in this way, but painting someone's room or hanging crown molding or making them cupcakes or whatever, these are all other ways to care for people.
We had this bakery by my house where we grew up, and they had the most delicious baked goods. If I didn't have a bakery, I would want to be like a pastry chef for like a restaurant.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, but now I have to maybe I'll do that when I retire.
Hopefully we got plenty of time so you can have 3 more careers in this time. Okay, well then I have another question.
Go for it.
I have to find it first one. What would you say is a case that you've had that really stands out to you for some reason?
I had a patient a long, long time ago, actually, who was hearing voices and had no other mental health problems, had a wonderful upbringing, really just couldn't understand, was doing well in school, said that the caseload wasn't too heavy, like doing really, really well, very social. And she noticed because when she was out with people, she was hearing things that people weren't saying. So there's some people who have extra voices from time to time. We started her on a mild dose of medication, and she basically improved within 2 days. And I remember her being so relieved and just feeling like it's the most simplistic case ever, but it was really just one of those things where it made me believe that medication can make a difference. So it really stood out to me, like sometimes the simplest interventions are the best ones. So that's why I always like to start off, just doing a little bit at a time, seeing if it works, and then sometimes it even works. A lot of times it doesn't work. And the gratitude that she had was just like, it just made such a difference. Again, so simple. So, and there's been a billion other things that just like, there's certain funny things, certain not funny things that stick out. But that to me is just, it's the first thing where I felt like I could do this, and it would just make a difference.
That must have been so rewarding knowing that you could help like that.
Yeah, I think it just and so simplistically too. So I think that sometimes things can be straightforward and easy, and they don't have to be as complicated. Everyone isn't a complicated case, but some people are, and sometimes just remembering those basics of the simplicity help with the more complicated cases. So how about you?
Well, I think I'm going to keep this one light. I wasn't going to. I was thinking about all of the people I've worked with over the years, but I think one of the funnier ones that stands out to me is that I was walking a client out of the office one day, and he's like, "A ginger cookie just fell out of your dress." And I was like, "What?" So what happened was, before the session, I had grabbed ginger cookies and threw them on my lap. I was going to try to eat them real fast before he got there, and then I didn't get to do that. So then when I walked out, the cookie fell on the ground, and it was kind of embarrassing, but that stands out. But
so that's what I'm going to bake you, a ginger cookie.
Oh, yes, I'll say, it's Dom's cookies.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with you. There are some light things that happen, some funny things where it breaks the tension in your day-to-day casework, where it alleviates things where, mental health's heavy. It is heavy. So having those things, whether they be, whether it's a rewarding patient or just a situation that just breaks the tension, that's just wonderful. And it's hilarious.
Since we've talked about this before, having ADHD, there tends to be more of those moments, I think, in my office at least. So people usually bear with me with that. He was not upset about it. It was just strange.
All right. So I'm up for a question now. What is the most challenging part of running your own practice?
Well, All of it, I would say. I think it's interesting. I remember when I was in undergrad, I had a professor that said that everybody who is getting their degree should also go get an MBA. And I remember being confused by that statement, especially since that seemed kind of far from what I was doing. But he was pretty correct, because these are all skill sets that I do not have. If you take insurance like we both do, that's definitely challenging. I wouldn't want it any other way. I want to be able to serve more people, not just people that can afford to pay privately for it. I will always take Medicare and private insurance, but that adds a layer of complexity, of expense, of everything. So that's tough. But honestly, that's probably the most difficult part, because if it was just like, just a transaction, like I see you, then you pay me money and then that's it, that would be better. This makes it very, very complicated. And there's like 1,000 insurances and they pay all at different rates. And there's just so many ways that it can get messed up. And I think just knowing that it's a business. I consider myself a therapist, not a business person, and it's a completely different hat. And when you're still working in practice and you don't just own the practice, you're actually doing the work also, switching between the two, I find to be a little bit difficult. Like I'll be, seeing a client, and then in the 10 minutes between I have to like run payroll or something, and that's a little chaotic. What about you? What do you think's most challenging?
Yeah, I agree with you with the business aspect of it. And it's different because I'm my own person. Like I'm a solo practice right now. So, and I think that there is a difference between a private group practice and a solo person, because I'm that whole everything. I mean, you're still doing all that stuff, but it's nice to have people to lean on. But again, they come with their own responsibility. But I would say, the insurances were a challenge. And like yourself probably, I was all self-taught. Like I didn't have people who I could go to and figure it out. But the biggest challenge for me, now I'm a nurse practitioner licensed in 3 different states. Do you think they all have the same rules?
Of course not.
Knowing the legalities of what I can and cannot do, and even just from a business aspect, like just the legalities, that's what it is. Even incorporating insurance into that too, because it's like you said, knowing who you can take, knowing who's a network. They've made it a little bit easier, but even like now, like with Availity, it's still a challenge. You'll be able to pull up and see that someone has active insurance, and then like, yeah, it's active. How much, like, what is their copay? What is their co-insurance? Do they have a deductible? And it was blank. And then you have to call them. Anyway, it's such a pain. But yeah, legalities for me is a bigger issue than that, because I'm like, is it legal for me to be doing this? And then like, I contact my state boards. They tell me to hire a lawyer. That is not... That's not good enough for me. Like, so I think really just sorting out like what's within my scope, what's legal. And, again, Delaware is an autonomous state, New Jersey's closer, but Pennsylvania's not. And it's just like, knowing that stuff. And even like so much stuff bounces back because I did it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, that's like a kind of like a kick in the nuts.
Yes, exactly. You finally got it. And then it's like, oh no.
I'm like, nope, you suck.
I keep thinking, do I have to learn every lesson the hard way? Can I just like have one that it just goes, okay, good, it's relatively smooth? I feel like that is it's definitely complicated. Sometimes I tell everybody here, the other therapist, I'll be like, can we just like change this to a different kind of business that's easier? There has to be.
And you're right, cash only would negate like a vast majority of that. But like, I want to serve a population that needs it.
Yeah.
Like I use insurance. Like it's not fair. I feel like it's a person that's just not fair to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to take that. And everyone has their own different model. I'm not saying it works for some people, it doesn't. But when COVID happened, that's what people did because they could. And then also because insurance has make it tough, and it is painful. But like a lot of people went into private practice, and I spoke to someone who like, they said, what are your fees? And I said, mine are X. And someone was charging double to triple that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I don't think when people see how much we charge, which we charge $175 a session. And I don't know if the insurance companies want you to know this or they care, but they don't pay us anywhere near that.
No.
We just write off the difference. So that $175 is like, that's what we would like to get. And,
You don't get it, and it's like, and by write off, it doesn't mean you get that discounted on taxes. You just
it's just write off.
Honestly, I thought when I started, I was like, oh, write this off as like a business expense. If they're not getting doesn't that make sense? Yeah. It makes sense to me.
Somehow I'm getting that rest of that money, right? From somewhere. No, it's just
Suck it up, Buttercup.
It's terrible. And I think that one of the hardest parts is that there's not one place I can go and see all of our rates for our insurance companies. I will call the insurance company and say, what is my contracted rate? And they won't tell me. They will
No.
say, you have to submit a request or you have to look it up here or whatever. I'm like, just tell me how much I get for this
Yeah, I
person.
run my CPTs for the ones that are challenging because I'm like, if you see a copay on the card, but like, because again, there's no surprises. You're not. That's really the kicker. The no surprises when you have to tell a client upfront what they're going to be paying, and yet the insurance company won't tell you. Yeah, stop that. It's too much.
It is. Okay, so we both know what our challenging parts of the
Yeah, I
running.
think they gave you all like 47 challenging parts.
So if you are looking into starting private practice, just join us. Don't do it. So we've already made all the mistakes. So we are getting towards the end of our Q&A. I have one more question, which is, what is your favorite, if we can say that, like favorite issue, population, treatment, what have you, in working with people?
That is a wonderful question. There's a lot of things I like. I think I'll call it interesting.
Okay.
So the thing that I find most interesting is when someone is having an acute manic episode and what do you do about it? Because anti-manic medications work very quickly. So you see someone who's having an episode where they're hyper, they're talking, they're not sleeping, and then you give them a medication that is an anti-manic and they just calm back and get down and realize where they were with their mania. So I think some people were in tune with it very well. Some people are not. People like to ride it. So some people will deliberately get manic so they can clean the house. So they can have a graduation come. The problem is that if you step beyond a place that's where
we're just functional.
Yeah. Then you're or you become psychotic and start roughing people up or doing whatever. But it's just so interesting to me. That to me, I thought was again a marvel of medication, just to see something work so quickly. Because as you know, in mental health, things don't usually resolve very fast.
Right. This sounds like the other example that you had.
With the voices. Yeah, to see something happen quickly. I think ADHD too. That was something when someone has response to a medication, like the stimulants work very quickly. So that's a different change. But a vast majority of people in the intervention side do usually take a while. So having the treating mania very quickly, having people come down off of that and then realizing like, oh, that was not such a great idea. Or a med failed or something along those lines. People don't always put themselves there, but it's just an interesting process for me to follow.
And it probably makes you feel like good about what you're doing, that you can see, because we know we help people, hopefully, a lot of people, hopefully. We don't always get to see it, right? Like, so we don't always get to see, like in those instances, like in real time, you can see the...
Yeah, I think, I agree with you. I'd say that sometimes too, we may be treating someone for years, but you don't necessarily go back to and think about day one where they were. Because what's acute right now? Or what's going on right now? I often will talk about gratitude and growth with people who can feel as if they're stuck because they're like, well, think of where you were before. This is what we've accomplished with medication. And then, but again, some of the more instant things are just so gratifying. How about yourself?
This is a hard question to answer because I can think of a lot of different types of clients I like to work with, a lot of different treatments and modalities. I mean, I love working with people that are over 65 and specifically like in their 70s, give or take, because I just think that it's such a cool age, honestly. And it's like they've been through a bunch of stuff and then they want to make the most out of the rest of the time that they have. And they could have a good amount. They could have 20 more years, 30 more years. I would say, I think the one that I have the most experience with that then makes me the most feeling most comfortable with is probably working with oncology patients. And now in private practice setting where I'm not in a hospital or cancer center. So it's like people are coming to me with their life problems, right? And cancer. And so when we were in the cancer center, we would say cancer doesn't happen in a vacuum. Like you don't just say, okay, here's your problem. It's cancer. People have lives with all kinds of other stuff going on. And so we're in a good position in a private practice setting for you to come talk to your therapist about all of your life stuff. But cancer may be a really big part of that. And it may be a bigger part at sometimes than others. And so I think having that experience helps people that they don't have to explain what a PIC line is. They don't have to, explain like the medical parts or just the psychosocial challenges that I have worked with and studied for so long. I don't know. So I see them feel, hopefully more often than not, like comfortable and more understood. Even that I haven't had a cancer experience personally. And so sometimes people will want to know that, like, well, have you had cancer? And at the cancer center, people would ask that. And I don't think we should have to have had everything that
No.
we for the people that we treat. But I also have a friend who is a young breast cancer patient, and she went to a therapist to talk about her breast cancer, and that therapist also had breast cancer. And she said the therapist talked so much about like her own breast cancer, became like almost like a competition. And she said it didn't feel like her space. So I almost feel like it's one of the situations that I really don't have a personal experience to relate, and we shouldn't be relating to everything. It's their time. So I guess that would probably be what I would say.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you that with a lot of times with the LGBTQ community, there's a comfort within there. So sometimes people want to go to a provider who's also in the community, which can be nice, but it can also be a double-edged sword because sometimes you run out to them and run out of them in the community in a small world. I think that like you said, dealing with oncology patients is a challenge, and like that's a whole bunch of grief and loss and a bunch of things going on there. It takes a very special person to work with that. So that's something where it's both rewarding, it can be draining, of course, but that's something where that's a nuanced care sort of thing. As your friend said with that experience, it might have been cathartic for another provider who had those things, but you go to therapy for yourself.
Also love working with patients or with clients with ADHD, and that because as we know,
Yeah.
so that one feels like I don't feel like that self-disclosure and that me having it has somehow negatively affects their treatment. I almost feel like that's more helpful because when they walk in and I have like, oh,
You can keep pace.
yeah, oh, exactly. And they're like, sorry, I'm all over the place. I'm like, I am following this. I know. And I can pay attention to like these stories of like, these tangents. I love it. I love to listen to that. I just like, it's a funny thing. One day I was eating there's usually cereal around somewhere, sugar cereal. And one day I had Life cereal. That's not really a sugar cereal though, right? Yeah. And so I had spilled it on the floor right before a client came in, and she came in and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My life's all over the floor. She's like, that's okay. My life's all over the floor too. I was like, that's awesome. Okay, so I think we have one more question for our Q&A for today. I'm sure if you guys have other questions, we will answer them at another time. But how about we know about self-care and how important it is, but Dom, what do you do for self-care?
For self-care, definitely take mental health medications.
Okay,
So
okay.
definitely get mental health tune-ups every once in a while. And I like to exercise. I think that's my place. And also just make sure I have quiet. For me, quiet is so important and just a place where I can gather my thoughts, have my brain slow down. I do a lot. I like breathing. This self-care sort of stuff is important. I need to fill my cup up to the highest it can be to be the best for my personal life, my professional life. So exercise is by far the thing that does it the most.
Really?
So,
You exercise every day?
well, just about. I think that I at least try to get like 20 to 30 minutes in on a daily basis. And then I will try to incorporate some, like I used to be a big runner, but my knees are bad now, so that's cool. But running for me was kind of more of a chore than actual enjoyment, but I would train for races. But now I do just like lifting, and yeah, it just clears my head. It makes me feel good, and that is kind of the biggest thing for self-care for me. How about you?
Well, I don't run unless someone's chasing me, but I have worked out over the years. I'm not currently in a working out phase of my life, but maybe eventually. So that's not one that I do. But I will, if you're my client, I will tell you should exercise. That's very good for you. I don't know. I guess I like to try to have hobbies, right? Like I do a lot of art stuff and crafts, actually tons of those things, but I'm not good at any of it. I just like to do it. So painting and anything. Actually, any craft, you name it. And usually what I do is I go out and I buy all of the stuff for a craft, and then I go for a little bit, and then I go out and I buy all the other stuff for a new craft. So you can usually find me doing something like that. I like stand-up comedy, so I usually try to watch at least a little bit of stand-up comedy like every day. So even if it's just like somebody's monologue from the night before, or just like my favorite comics, just like looking up a little bit, I try to do that.
Do you watch Hacks?
No, but I mean, I saw one episode. I need to, right? It's good, right?
Yeah, it's super good.
Have you been watching Gemstones though?
We have not.
Oh my gosh, you have to watch it.
That was a whole ADHD moment right there.
I was just about to say, let's make a new question. What's your favorite show? Okay, yes. So I don't know. Yeah, so I guess that's what I do for self-care. But I probably need to do a better job. At least work in progress.
And this is a horrible question, but I feel like we just have to do it. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh God, damn it!
I knew you were dodging this bullet. That's why I was like, we have another one.
I was like, we'll have one more question, and it's not where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh yes. Okay, I was supposed to ask you that, right? Or you would?
Well, yeah, but we batted out of order, so it's
okay. All right. Where do I see myself in 5 years? I don't know. I mean, I will still be working with people in some capacity. Hopefully still doing this. I mean, I love having the group, and the other therapists are so awesome. And so maybe this, but also maybe having an Airbnb and doing some decorating. Maybe I'll be like your therapist during the week, and then I'll be doing like your kitchen backsplash during the weekend. How about you? Where are you in 5 years?
Yeah, I probably think about it just more because I'm starting off, but I may want to open a group, like do a group practice, have some therapists in there, have another medication provider. I think it really depends upon where we go with, again, nurse practitioners have it a little bit differently, to where if we can operate in a more autonomous ability, then expanding it to different states and having more people on. I thought about this, but I want to work smarter, not harder.
Same. Yes. So 5 years. That's our goal. Both of us for 5 years. Smarter, not harder. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And I think that, again, I foresee myself having a bunch of fulfillment. I will still be baking. And yeah, I mean, I want to, if anything that mental health has taught me, it's like you really have to take care of yourself. And part of that to me looks like balancing a work-life situation, which I think is totally achievable. So I think that 5 years, hopefully, I'm loaded and
I hope so.
If not, I'll be happy, because it does bring me a lot of joy. And I wonder where, also, maybe we'll be real famous with the podcast.
I think so. Let's manifest or something.
Yeah, why not?
This is our self-care, actually, podcast.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's again, cathartic. I think we used before in this conversation, but it just feels good to get it out there, what you're feeling, that that you're not alone, and hopefully explaining it to people and seeing things through our lenses and perspectives, and also knowing that there's options out there for you. And if you're another provider too, feel free to ask questions, or, if you're starting, I think we talked about this before, that we talked about maybe having some sort of business or mentorship in the future. That might be another 5 things where we help people open their practices.
Yes. That's yes. I hesitated because I was like,
you're like, look, he's like, hey, Dom just signed me up for it. Another full problem. That's a lot. You do the painting. You
help the people open their. I can just tell everybody just everything not to do. I'll say, this is what I did. Do the opposite.
Yeah, and hopefully the laws won't be so complicated by then. But yeah, so please feel free to send us lots of questions if you want to hear any topics or anything. We're open to suggestions. And yeah, this is probably the most fun for us, because it was probably the easiest to just dig in and find what we're feeling and not have to look up data and structure.
We're so good with structure. What are you talking about?
So,
I'm sorry I tried to ignore your question accidentally.
No, that's so fun. I thought, I was like, should I let it go?
It's not, of course not. Wait, while we're here, 2 truths and a lie. Everybody loves that question too.
Oh, okay. So, am I doing this to you, or are you doing that to am I starting off with 2 truths and a lie?
You tell me 2 of your truths. Tell me 3 things.
Okay.
2 of them are true. 1 of them is a lie.
Okay. So, number 1, I'm colorblind. Number 2, I've never been skydiving. Number 3, I love the Easter Bunny.
Okay. you're colorblind. I'm gonna say your truths are colorblind, and that you love the Easter Bunny, and your lie is that you've never been skydiving.
Wrong. I think the Easter Bunny's the scariest thing in the world. Like the ones that are dressed up in the mall are really scary.
So you've never been skydiving.
No, I think that's a little. I think it's a little Britney too. But being strapped to someone just feels a little weird to me. I did look at the classes where you can do it without doing tandem, but I was like, all right.
Oh my gosh! And then the Easter Bunny. Yeah, well, I mean that makes sense.
Have I ever seen an Easter Bunny in the mall? None of them are welcoming. None of them. And the ones from the '80s are terrifying. That's
Have you seen the pictures of them? And even like from before that, they are scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know you were colorblind though.
Yeah. I red greens are a bit of a problem.
I think that's green.
Okay.
You guys can't see it, but
yeah.
So do you want to know my 2 truths and a lie?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'll spend 14 minutes trying to think of them. and I used to do this every semester at the beginning of every new class for 10 years. I always did this, and everybody hates it. So I don't know why I didn't abandon it at some point. And then I would never usually share mine, but every once in a while, a student that was probably trying to be nice would be like, "Why don't you tell us yours?" And then I'd be like, "Oh, thank you. I don't mind if I do." Okay. I was voted personality plus in high school. I was an editorial assistant for a academic journal of sociology, and I was a janitor at one time for a college, and we used to clean all the fraternity houses and sorority houses in the summer.
I'm gonna go with editorial as the lie.
That is actually the lie, but only because good job. All right, because I don't know how to tell these things, so they probably sounded very, very clear. That I was like just telling you a fact, not trying to be. Okay, yes. So I was an editorial assistant for a journal of feminist philosophy for several years when I was in college. So, but the lie was it wasn't sociology. I was like, I don't know why I couldn't think of anything, so I just made that up.
No, I mean I'm legit on the fly, so it was very scary.
Easter Bunny's funnier though. I put it on that. Okay, so I think we've taken up enough time. This has gone way over 15 minutes. We'll do some crazy editing in this.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why we call it
long story longer. Exactly.
That makes sense. So,
all right.
Anyway, I'm Dominic Marano.
And I'm KatieBrzozowski.
Long story longer. So go out and tell 2 truths and a lie.
Not to the Easter Bunny.